Here they just had a light and the camera was stationary and they ran away from the camera while swirling, or vice versa, they kind of came by the camera while making a circle. Okay? What about this? Well, they had a light pointed at the camera and they drew a dinosaur.
That's hard.
Or they had a person sitting here and they traced around the person. Here, this image, they would have had to have this person hold still like this person holds still like this. They would have had someone with a flashlight come up behind and draw this and this. And then they also would have had to shine a light down here at the ground or at these people so that you can see them. Okay, so there's probably a bunch of people to make this photo that it looks just like two people around. Here we have a girl jumping and then fire. You know, I'm not telling anyone they should, go out and do fire, but maybe if you want to, I don't know. Here we have, there's a lot of these like sparkler looking ones. This is actually steel wool, I think is the trick here. You burn steel wool and it kind of sparkles like this. Or you can get some sparklers. This Pac-Man one, I mean, there's probably an LED light here. I mean, it looks like this person's shooting it, but an LED light used to kind of draw these things out. Getting people to use sparklers to kind of write something out. Here we have someone run up, draw arms on these things to make them look like robots. Here's that idea of holding the shutter open, holding still, and a bunch, like let's say a big bus or something drove by, and that's what made these streaks. So you can kind of go through. Here we have a person, okay? How do you make this? A person standing in the middle, a light is on a really long string, and they're just spinning around in a circle while making a circle like around themselves. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so you're in a circle, but you spin in a circle to do something like that. So that's kind of tricky. Here we have this guy's paddle lights up. Like he has lights on his paddle, which is making this happen as he rows his stand-up paddle board there. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, like a chessboard or, people or whatever. Skeletons. You're just drawing those there. But this is, like, not to set the bar too high, but for homework, like, you want to try to make some of this stuff happen. You can do it. It's going to take some effort and some planning, going outside, maybe buying some lights, downloading a color light on your phone or whatever. And you can have a lot of fun, and there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. Now, there's another artist here named Troy Pavia, and he kind of goes the other way. This is all kind of moving the light, moving the camera. Oh, you see this here? The person zoomed in with their camera while the shutter was open. That's how you get that like starburst effect. Okay? So if you open the shutter and then you start moving your zoom, it'll zoom in and out. Okay? Holding open a drone, taking a photo of a drone. This is a drone with lights on it that's going up in the air. There's a bunch of kind of crazy, interesting things you can do, but you got to be creative and you got to have some fun with this. Now, shining light at stuff can change this completely. So here we have, this is an artist named Troy Pavia, and he goes out and finds these like abandoned cars or whatever places, and he shines bright lights at something. This is a totally different style of light painting. Yes. It's painting or pointing light at something and then having that light bounce off. It's not all about movement or whatever, but you still have to have the shutter open for like a crazy long time to get the shot. But these are kind of like cool atmospheric type of photos. There's a lot of ways you can go about this. Okay, these are just a few. Where did that go here? For the class shots that we took, I'll open one of these with Photoshop here. So this is one that we took in class. Some of the adjustments that it'd be worth messing around with would be brightness and contrast. If you have a situation where you can see too much, bring the brightness down, bring the contrast up, and then now all of a sudden I can't see the board or the bulletin board in the back. Maybe you want to up the brightness. You can kind of play around with brightness and contrast. That's a good one to mess with. Another one is image under image adjustments is the hue saturation. Let's say I don't like the colors in here. All I got to do is pull this around and I can change the color to whatever I want. Okay, that's just messing around with hue and saturation. I can even make it brighter and more colorful. Okay? And then, you know, you can go get in and mess with all these, but those are two really good ones to mess around with. The last thing that I wanted to show you, which could be kind of maybe fun or worthwhile, is let's say you have this image here. Okay, I have this. I'm going to duplicate this layer. Okay, so I can move a copy of this. I have a photo here. I'm moving a copy of this photo around. Well, what if I had a heart or this zigzag or something here and I wanted to have more of that? I can just move this photo down, let's say like here. And what I want to do is I want this photo so that I can see through it. So what I'm going to do is where this layer right here, it's set to normal. If I set it to lighten, all it's going to do is lighten. It's only going to shine through where the light is. So everything that's like dark in this photo is not going to poke through in this photo. So if I go image and let me flip this over, edit, I'm going to go transform and flip it vertically. Now I have like, it looks like we were on water or something. If I do this and go image adjustment and maybe mess around with the hue of this one, you know, now I've made something that we couldn't have made. Okay, I have this kind of almost like pinstripe thing going on. If I combine these two layers and do that again, so let me do that again, and I go edit, transform, and I'm going to flip it horizontally, so this time it's going this way. And instead of normal, I switch it to lighten. Now we have this like crazy kaleidoscope thing going on here that we couldn't do. Okay, so let me up the contrast here and bring the brightness down. We made this. Okay, but we couldn't have made this just with the lights. I mean, there's too much going on here, but we just made it now, just adding a little bit with Photoshop. But if you have just an element of a thing, like let's say I took some ones of just like random here. This was the light board that I had up there. Let's say I have this and I really like it. Whatever this is, let's say you drew a heart or something. Like I can lasso around this thing, edit, copy it, edit, paste it, and move it around. Okay, it doesn't look good because I can see all this sort of black space. If I switch this to lighten, now all of a sudden I can move this wherever and I have two of something. So let's say you want an extra star or a heart or your letters didn't come out quite right. You can cut them up and move them around. You can even, we've been messing around with this a little bit, we can even take an eraser that's soft and I can soften this edge up. You know, I can soften that up so that I can see through it. Okay? So there's all types of stuff you can do with this once you have them. I think a lot of times what will happen is the photos might come out too bright or too dark. And so what we would want to do is maybe, you know, bring the contrast down or whatever, bring the brightness up or down. You know, that's kind of mess with that.
Is it?
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some good Photoshop edits to kind of mess with. And it's how the layers kind of communicate with each other. That would be a good thing to play with. Okay? So, taking cool photos, then trying to edit them, you know, somewhat to make them even cooler. That's what we're going for. And we're going for 10 different shots. So I don't want to do 10 of this. Okay, I want 10 different kinds of things. So like when I do that Google search of light painting, we have, well, we did like, there are 10 different random types of things here. That's what we're going for. Okay, try the different techniques that we did in class, like pointing the light and moving it, pointing the light at something, moving the camera. All those things are going to come into play and be fun for you guys. Okay?
How do you think they did that one in the corner with the two people? Like, so they have to stay totally still?
The people have to stay totally still, and then someone came up behind them and made this heart behind them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, probably with the sparkler or that steel wool thing where you burn steel wool.
And the one next to it too, right? That's a steel wool.
Yeah, that's probably steel wool. Because when it's sparkling so much, I haven't personally ever burnt steel wool, but I know from looking this up that's the tip that I've heard before. But you could try. I mean, just be careful if you're going to do something like that. But sparklers, even, you know, there's all types of stuff that you can get through. Let's see. Any other ones that jump out at you? Like, how would you do? Okay, like this. The car sits there, and then you bring the light over, just like you were jumping over that mini tripod. You're jumping over the car. And now it looks like Tron or something, but it's just because you're kind of tracing the car while it's sitting there.
So having a tripod would be super useful.
A tripod would be super, super useful for this project. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Unless you're moving the camera, you know. But yeah, if
I
you're
will
going
hit
to
the
move the
person
light
on offer up and
keep
be
the
like,
camera
one for
still, you
me
want
and
a tripod.
another one for you, dude.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
You take out a motorcycle, put LED lights in, and have it race. It's
How are we on time?
It's
It's getting close to 7-ish. Okay, so I'm going to send the sign-in sheet around. The rest of class is, you know, yours to either edit the photos, organize what we did before. You could go out in the world and take pictures, whatever you want to do. But that's the assignment. So project number 2 is 10 long shutter speed photos. That's what the project is, okay?
with edits.
With edits, yes, with edits. And I'll update the list, the checklist on Canvas, but that's where we're at so far.
Do you have that paper thing or no?
Paper?
Like you're printing out the paper?
I'll print it out later.
Okay.
It's all digital right now, but yeah, I can print it out.
All right.
Because we're going to probably have, I think it's 5 or 6 projects before the midterm. So this is project 2.
Get it like we got it last time.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
This is fun. You guys have fun with this. This is like a really fun project, I think.